Okay, so today's event, guys, it's all about be the CEO, how to keep your team. And really what we're attempting to do is build a culture where people would never want to leave. So I'm going to be giving you some of my tips and tricks that I've learned working for some of the top teams. I worked for the top team in Idaho for 5.5 years. I did everything from being a host at the open houses to eventually running about half the organization. And I got to learn a ton about how to keep people excited and happy and engaged. And then I brought that into my business, Own Boise. I guess we'll just dive forward here a little bit. So a little bit about me there on the screen. You guys can read that. Some of the things on the agenda today: ongoing team training. We're going to talk accountability very heavily. And then we're going to talk about culture and really focusing on a culture where people don't want to leave. So let's go ahead and roll forward. As I mentioned before, guys, in the chat, for some of you that have joined late, be engaging here. Help me help you. Okay. And I don't have all the answers, and yet I'd love to dialogue with you. And because we don't get to chat back and forth, the chat box is your friend. When you're typing in chat, select everyone, not just the host and panelists, select everyone. So let's go ahead and dive into content here. All right, we're going to go right into accountability. So we're going to talk about something that I believe has a lot of leaders and business owners. It has them stumped because, when you have a standard and you don't have a consequence, there are just at that point, just like fingers crossed, like, hey, I hope we do this. So for example, like our team standard, you hear stuff on stage at these big conferences, no matter the company, and they say like, oh yeah, our standard is everyone makes 100 contacts a day or they're fired. And what we know, people who've been doing this for a while and get to know some of these people, we know that we go talk to them afterwards, and we're like, holy cow, 100 contacts every day or they're fired? Like, how do you have any team? And they're like, well, we just started that last week. And so, you need to inspect what you expect. So if you hear something from myself or one of these other coaches and you're like, wow, that's the craziest thing ever, like just recognize like some things have been tried and true and they've done it time and time and time and time again. And sometimes there's these other pieces where like it sounds crazy and it might be crazy. So if you're going to put in a standard, and then I would immediately put a consequence behind that standard. So I'll give you a sample, one of my favorite ones. We actually borrowed this from another team, and we've been doing it for 7 years on my team. So we had a problem with real estate agents showing up late, which I know what you're thinking. You're like, no way, real estate agents never show up late. Well, yeah, I'm kidding, of course. We had people not showing up on time, and it was a distraction for meetings, when we're doing scripts and role play or dialogues. And so we looked around the room, and once we had everyone in the room, finally 5-10 minutes after we're supposed to be in the room, we had a dialogue about this. Like, okay, do you intend to show up late? And they're like, no, I'd love to show up on time. And I'm not going to go into the whole showing up late and all that stuff. That's not what this conversation is about. I do want to talk to you about what our team agreed to. Our team agreed to this. Like, look, we agreed people are probably going to keep showing up late. Like, stuff happens, life happens. Every minute you show up late to the meeting, you owe $1 to the happy hour fund. So if you're only 2 minutes late, no big deal. You put $2 in, and then once the happy hour fund gets to a certain amount, we all go have drinks. And some of us are buying other people drinks. Some of us are drinking for free. And that's one of our consequences we put around our standards so that we can hold people accountable. And it's kind of fun, and believe me, our team, they hold someone else accountable, right? If you paid $5 to the happy hour fund last week and someone shows up late, you're like, hey, that, you owe $2 or $3. So we have a board and we just track the numbers, and then we get people to pay in. And it's kind of a fun way to hold our team accountable. So that just shows you, a little bit of an example. And I can go a little bit more in depth on our team. We have a standard of a minimum sales standard. And if you don't hit that minimum sales standard, the following month, you have to choose activities that you're going to do to catch up. And it's not negotiable. If you don't do those activities, you will not be on our team. And that's just showing a standard of accountability. Like, that's what we're looking to accomplish. So your standards are what you're willing to accept. This is another thing that you need to recognize. So if you say like, hey, no one's allowed to show up late, and then someone shows up late and you don't say anything, you guys might write this down a little bit. And Frank, I'll get right to that question. It's a good question. You might write this down. Silence grants permission. And in the chat, what does that mean to you when I say silence grants permission? I'll use these chat question times to take a sip of my LaCroix. What do you think silence grants permission means? You're an accomplice. You don't say anything, they think it's okay. You don't say anything, they accept the behavior. Yeah, guys, I could do an hour-long class on that topic, silence grants permission. I'm only going to spend a few minutes on it here, but it's massive, right? So one of my old mentors used to say, call it early, call it often. And what she meant by that is she meant like, hey, if someone shows up late and you call them out, great. And then the next day they show up late and you call them out. And then the next day they show up late and you're like, dude, I've just called them out 2 days in a row. Like, I'm not going to call them out again. They know they're late. The silence, you not calling it out, now it's a standard right here. I think you guys can see my mouse, right? I hope you can. If not, let me know. Maybe let me know either way, because I'm like waving at certain things. But your standards are what you're willing to accept. So if you allow them to show up late, thank you, Frank, then now that's your new standard. Okay, so our minimum sales standard on our team is 1 sale a month. Like, you have to sell a house every month. If you're not selling a house every month, what are you doing? Right? And stuff happens, right? I mean, things are going to happen. Life happens. You had a bad month, whatever. So we give you the opportunity to correct that, but you're going to have to step up to the table and do more activity. So you're going to have to commit to weekly activity. Like, let me give you an example. If you don't get that one pending, so basically what we do is we say you have to have a new transaction pending every month minimum. And if you get 2 this month and 0 next month, that's still 1 month average. So we average it over the last 12 months. But if for whatever reason you slip behind that, then you need to step up to the plate and take on additional activities. So those activities could be a number of things. It could be, you're going to hold 2 open houses this week, and you're going to knock 50 doors per open house. And if you don't do that, then you are saying you don't want to be on this team, and we're going to high five and we're going to part ways. And this standard is just simply to help you hit your goal. And anyone who decides to get in our organization, they understand the minimum standard. And just for reference, if you get a brand new agent on your team, we allow 90 days and then we start the clock. So you got 90 days to get a deal pending, and then you got to average 1 deal every single month minimum. And there are teams that do significantly more than that, depending on what they're doing, right? They might have a team of ISAs that's just handing appointments off left and right, and their minimum sales standard per month might be 4 or 5 deals a month. So don't take that out of context and think, oh yeah, I'm doing 1 deal a month, everything's great. Like, if you got a team handing you appointments every single day, your team might require a higher level of accountability. So back to silence grants permission, because this is off topic on the accountability piece, but it's a great leadership lesson. So when we talk about silence grants permission, let's talk about gossip for a second. And this goes into culture, by the way. And maybe I should have saved it for that, but I'm already here, so I'm going to keep going. So if someone is, bringing drama to the table or speaking ill of someone else in the organization, so they come up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, Chase, you should have seen what Rebecca did this week. She's so horrible. I can't believe she did that. And if I sit here and just being polite, I'm like, yep. And I might even be doing something else on my computer. And I'm just kind of nodding and like, okay, wow, that's a bummer. Right? What I'm doing by being silent there is I'm essentially agreeing with that person. In their head, they walk away and they're like, yeah, even Chase agrees that Rebecca's bad. And you're creating this culture where, you're just basically helping that culture manifest in that situation, drama or, someone speaking ill. So best practice there, someone comes up to you and says, hey, Rebecca's not good. And then, for me, immediately, I'm like, well, have you told Rebecca this? If they say anything other than, yes, I talked to her about it just now, I'm stopping the conversation. I'm like, hey, you need to go talk to Rebecca about that. And if you're not comfortable, let's bring Rebecca in here and we'll all talk about it. Another script I got around that, which I thought was really good, is like, hey, before you say anything bad about Rebecca, I just want you to, or let me rephrase that. Before you say anything about Rebecca, I just want to let you know, she thinks you're an awesome person. She was just telling me the other day how great you are. So what were you going to say about Rebecca? It could be a really great way to shift that culture and get it going the way you want. So silence grants permission. That's a little bonus material not in the slides here. So standards are what you're willing to accept. It's plain and simple. All right, now this next line right here, your clients aren't loyal to you, they're loyal to the standards you represent. This is pulled out of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, written by Gary Keller, and it's the 5th myth understanding. And this one is massive. I don't know how many team owners or team leaders we have out there, or even team members. It's kind of irrelevant which role you're in. It doesn't matter, but this applies to you in a massive, massive way. And what this means is the myth is that, people only want to work with Chase, only I can provide the service and quality and all that crap, right? And the reality is your clients aren't loyal to you. They're loyal to the standards that you represent. So the reason when I was building my business and having a ton of success and people wanted to work with Chase, it wasn't because of Chase. It was because of the standards that I represented. So let's line this out in the chat. What are some standards that you as an agent have when it comes to helping your clients buy and sell real estate? I'm going to give you guys a second to type a few things out, and then I will add a few things. Quick LaCroix break. All right, great follow-up. It's awesome. What else? Quick communication, constant communication. I love it. Keep it coming. What else do you guys got? What other standards do you guys have? Availability. So Frank's available for questions. Guys, there's like almost infinite standards, and I'm going to go into a few. I'm going to read a couple more. Professionalism, being respectful, pre-existing agency relationships. So let me give you an example, and I think this was brought up the other day, actually by Andrea and Anne Marie. They were talking about this in one of the classes the other day, and I typed something in the chat, and I'm going to say it here. So they were discussing, like, one of the biggest flaws people make is they get communication coming in, and I just failed at this yesterday, so I'll be really vulnerable yesterday. I'll tell you exactly what happened, what I should have done, and what I actually did. So, but essentially, someone reaches out. Their story was someone reaches out and says, "Hey, when does the home inspector go out?" And then you as the agent are like, crap, I don't know when the home inspector goes out. Let me go find out when the home inspector goes out. And you leave your client hanging and you don't respond to them. and something goes on and blah, 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 and the day's over. And then all of a sudden you're like, crap, I got to get the home inspector thing. And then the next day comes and then you maybe finally take care of it. And I would really, really encourage you guys to write this down. People do not care if they're being taken care of right now. They don't need to be taken care of right now, but they need to know that they're being taken care of right now. And so let's make sure we understand the very clear difference here, okay? They don't need the answer or need to be solved or need to have their problem solved. They need to know that someone's working on it right now. That's the society that we live in. This is the Amazon Prime world we live in. You can order something this morning, get it delivered today. People expect greater urgency. So I'll give you the classic example, and I tell my agents this all the time. If you're running a team, you need to have this discussion with your agents, okay? They're in line at Costco to like check out. There's 1 million people there, and they're like, it's loud, everything's crazy, and that's when they get the lead, right? Of course, that's when you get the lead, when you're in the worst possible position. And so what they do is they sit there and they wait and they're like, well, I'll check out of Costco. I'll go home. I'll go put all my crap away. I'll get in front of the computer. I'll, research this person's name and maybe their question. And then I'm going to call them, and it's 2 hours later. Guys, they already called 6 other agents. They already signed up on 6 other websites. You missed it. You missed it. So what you need to do, and this is the best practice in the market we're going into, guys, you cannot afford to miss it. You cannot afford to miss it. So what needs to happen is you need to take the call. And it's very simple. So Bella, it's Chase. How are you? Funny story. I'm actually in line at Costco right now, but I wanted to let you know I'm going to be working on your behalf. Is it okay if we talk here in about 2 hours? That's all you got to do. Now Bella knows she's taken care of. Now she's in a good position. She doesn't need to go to 6 other websites. She can go back to freaking playing Candy Crush, right? That's the big takeaway. So there's a standard. So my standard, when I was selling lots and lots and lots of homes as a single agent, my standard was extremely expedient communication. Very, 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 very fast. I get a lead, they know I'm there. And so if you're running a team, do your agents know what made you successful? And so here's a best practice. Here's an actionable item right now you can go do. You can go write down the top 5 things you think made you a successful real estate professional. Then you can make sure your agents understand what is significant about every one of those things and how they can implement it in their business on your team. And I'm saying this on a team, guys. This could be, if you're a solo agent and you have no team, you have a team, by the way, your title officer, your escrow officer, your lender, your home inspector, handyman. They need to know what your clients expect. And if they can't get on board with what you offer, then you need to go find someone that can. So I just want to, for clarity, I'm not just speaking to people who are running big teams or people who are on teams. Guys, if you're on a team and you don't know why your mega agent was very successful, you better go figure it out. If they're not here, go ask them. What are the top 5 things that caused you to be a success? And gosh, I'm giving you guys so much here, so I hope you're hanging on. This is recorded. You guys can go back and listen to this. But success leaves clues. So if you know someone, even if you're a solo agent, you know someone in your market who runs a business very successful, and you want to mimic your business like their business, then you probably better know what their business is and why they're so successful. Okay, we're moving on here. Get an accountability partner. So if you're in an office with other agents, and find someone who's as good or better than you and set up some accountability with them. You can meet with them for 5 minutes at the beginning of the week and say, hey, here's the top 3 things I want to do this week. Okay, what are the top 3 things you want to do? Awesome. Let's have a midweek check-in. Let's check in on Wednesday and see where we're at. And then we'll recap the following week and we'll set new goals. Gamify it. By the way, back to this accountability partner thing. This is why I've hired a coach, because I didn't want to be missing out on someone's like, oh, I'm sick this week, or oh, I forgot to do it. No, BS, man. I'm paying money to my coach. They ain't forgetting to hold me accountable. Okay. I've been a coach for the last 8 years. I take it extremely seriously what people are intending to achieve. And we turn that accountability pressure up. And there's a big reason, by the way, why, the most successful people on the planet have multiple coaches. Let's think about this for a second, okay? Tom Brady, inarguably, in my opinion, the best quarterback of all time, right? I mean, just look at the Super Bowl wins, right? Is there a coach out there that has been a better quarterback than him? No, it's not a possibility, right? No one else has won that many Super Bowls, but he still has multiple quarterback coaches. These are coaches helping him be a better quarterback. So if it can work for someone like Tom Brady, it could probably work for someone like me and someone like you. And I think it's one of the best accountability partners you can get. Just going to read Susan's remarks real quick. This is how I grew in the beginning. Find the top producer and take them to lunch or coffee. That's a great, great idea, Susan. Make sure your accountability partner is a good. Hire it out if you can. It's so worth it. Coaching is an investment, guys, and you should expect a return on your investment. One of my coaching clients, she's phenomenal, an agent out of Nevada. I'll just tell you this quick story because I think coaching should pay for itself. So she has a client that's a $2 million buyer and they're looking and they can't find anything. So we gave her some advice on how she could find listings for her buyer. She implemented that advice. She spent $700. She got 4 real listing leads, all in the $1.5 to $4 million price range. And she's expecting to double into listing. $2 million listing off that $700 she spent. And of course, she's spending money on coaching, but the ROI on that, she's looking to make an $80,000 commission. And we've been coaching together for 6 months. So, and you look at that investment on coaching, guys, you should find ways that you can actually get a return on the investment you make. And the best investment you can make, I just was in a class yesterday with an amazing mindset coach. He's like, real estate's all about location, location, location. He said, you know what the most expensive real estate in the world is? It's right between your ears. So what are you doing to renovate the real estate between your ears? That's what coaching is. All right, so gamify it. Oh, let's make sure we don't miss this. This is one of my favorite things. And I hope, gosh, I thought 3 slides I'd be able to get through this whole thing in an hour. I hope I do. So if you're getting value, let me know in the chat. I really appreciate it. So gamifying, it's very simple on the accountability side. And this is the easiest way I can say it. So when I first got into business, I was 22 years old, broke, by the way. And I'm married, 2 kids. My wife's going to college full time, doesn't have an income, and we own a house. Someone loaned us money to buy a house, so we're sitting there trying to get through all the stuff. And I said this. I said, when I get my first commission, I'm going to go buy the most expensive bottle of tequila ever. I was 22, by the way. And by the way, the most expensive bottle of tequila ever, it was like a $30 bottle of tequila. It was like 1,800 silver. But I gamified it. I was so excited to go buy that bottle because I got my commission check. And then I went into the store and I got the bottle. And I had that right in front of my face. And so we talk about the big why. And I used to get really, I don't know, like my ego would kind of kick in because I'd hear other people's big whys. Here, my head's getting cut off here. I hear other people's big whys, and like they're digging wells in Africa, and they're like putting birthing centers in, third world countries, and they're saving puppies and all this stuff. And I was like, I just need to make money. Like I want to provide for my family. And so I kind of felt like my why wasn't that important. And even their whys, by the way, what I've learned being in this business for as long as I have, and being able to coach a lot of these people, even their big whys, are not necessarily fueling them every day. Because let's go back to this birthing centers in third world countries or whatever. Today, you're brand new in real estate, you have no money. Can you start birthing centers in these third world countries? No. How long is it going to take you to do that? I don't know, but maybe it costs $50,000. You have to donate to be able to do that. So how long is it between now and that 50 grand? It's probably not tomorrow. So you need to have something that motivates you in the interim. Okay. So your big whys, those birthing centers in a third world country, and you want to do 50 of them 10 years from today. Well, that's cool. So that's $2.5 million based on $50,000 per birthing center. But what are we going to do in the meantime? So the first one's closer than the 50. But even between now and the $50,000 I have to get to donate, I still got to have some little things in between. So maybe a family vacation, that's a little closer. So maybe I can do that in 3 or 4 months. Well, what's sooner than that? Maybe a date night with my significant other. Well, that can maybe be done in a couple weeks. And then what's even closer than that? This is the gamification. I don't know about you guys. I was talking to Bella about it. I drink coffee every morning. I like to have my morning coffee, or some of you, myself included, I like to have a nightcap. It's nice to have, the day's done, you earn that beer or glass of whiskey or whatever. Well, start to tie accountability to that thing that you already take for granted. So if you wake up and you have coffee every day and you're like, no big deal, you probably don't think anything about it. Well, set your goal to that coffee. I want to contact 20 people today. And if I don't, then I don't get to have coffee tomorrow. And I can promise you, you're only going to miss a few of those coffees before you start contacting 20 people per day. And if you have me as a coach or someone else as a coach, we're going to find a way to hold you highly, highly accountable to that. So that's a great way that you can gamify it. All right. So retention and culture. All right. Frank wants $80,000 commissions. We want to help you with that, Frank. We can get with your coach or message Bella. We'll get you some information on that. Susan, I have quarterly challenges with my husband and son to see who make the most money, and winner has to take everyone out to Maestro's, as we all have good food. No one wants to pay that bill. That's awesome. So the winner is the one who makes the most money, or the one who makes the least money? We'll have to get that back. So culture. Okay, so whoever makes the least amount of money has to pay the bill. Oof. That sounds like it'd be worth making sure you're selling, right? All right. So culture happens with or without you. What does that mean? Well, essentially, culture is developing no matter what. So if you're in an organization, and this holds true even being solo, right? Like you're probably at a brokerage, or like we talked about, you got an inspector, a lender, a title company, whatever. You got your people. The culture is happening whether you intend it to or not. So we'll go back to the late example, right? Like if your home inspector shows up late and you don't say anything, you're creating a culture where it's okay to show up late. And we can take this, you can take this on almost every single level, right? That we go back to that example of someone saying bad things about another person. If you're that person saying bad things about another person, that's what your culture is. And if you want to shift that culture, then you need to be intentional about that culture. So talk about it. I mean, we have our company retreat, Own Boise's company retreat. We have that next week. we're going to talk about our mission, vision, and values more than once throughout the retreat. We've got 2 slides dedicated to it. We've got handouts. We want to make sure people understand like why we exist. And honestly, we want to talk about it to where it's uncomfortable, because if you're not a fit for our culture, that's okay. We'd rather find it out sooner than later. So if you don't like us talking about how we're committed and we have growth and we have integrity and we're serving heart and gratitude, right? If you don't want to talk about that, if you don't want to talk about accountability, then you're probably not our people, which is totally fine, right? And so we talk about this in the hiring process too, which goes into core values, right? So setting up your core values. There's actually a book called Traction, written by Gino Wickman. He also is one of the authors that wrote Rocket Fuel as well, which is a great book if you're looking to hire anyone that's going to be an administrative assistant, or if you're in a relationship where you have someone who implements stuff and someone who maybe is more the visionary side. Really good book. But Traction actually has a really good exercise on how to establish your core values. So if you're looking to establish core values in your organization, great book. So once you define your core values, now you're going to use those to hire people, meaning like you interview them, you go over the core values. One of my favorite questions is, what are the most, top 3 things you're looking for in a team? I want to hear what they say. If they're like splits, leads, whatever, freedom, that might not be our people. Now, freedom, it might be on that list. We just need to understand what that means to them. So our top 3 things are growth, proven systems and models, and accountability. And so if you don't want to be held accountable, then we're not going to be a fit, which is totally fine. And we'd rather find that out day one than after we've been in business for 3 months and they're like, why are you asking me for numbers? So then you're going to fire and you're going to review on this, right? If you say you're a company that holds people accountable and they're not willing to be held accountable, then you probably need to part ways. So review, reward, and recognize people based on these. So great book, Traction, check it out. Here's another book, The Fish Model. I thought this was kind of a cool little way to develop culture. So they have 4 kind of metrics they look at. Interesting book. It's like a 2-hour read. It's a story. But their four core values are: be there, play, make their day, whether it's making your client's day or making the day of the people you work with, and then choose your attitude. Like, attitude is a choice. So recognizing that you have influence on that. If you're looking for a book on this, Fish is a really good book on that. All right, so ongoing training. Now, this one right here, guys, I'm gonna sink into for a little bit, because this is I think this could be the biggest impact on your life. I really do. I don't say that lightly. Anyone who knows me, I don't know how many of you know who I am or have heard me speak before, but like, I don't say that lightly. This is a massive deal. So what was the title of the book you just recommended? 2 titles. So Fish is one of the books. And then the core values, that book is Traction by Gino Wickman. Okay, so top 3 things that will have the biggest impact on your life. Okay, the first one, I'm gonna explain these before I pop them on the screen, okay? The first one is the books you read. And we say that because it sounds cool, and you've probably heard that before. But what we're talking about is the information you put into the most important real estate on the planet. Right? What the real estate in between your ears, the brain, like, what are you allowing into your mind? So when I say books you read, I mean the information you put in your head. Are you sitting there watching political news for hours and hours every day? Is that beneficial? Is that what you're looking for? How is it benefiting you? How is it changing what's happening? right? Same with watching, if you're binge watching Netflix all day, every day, right? Or all you do is listen to music, no problem. I'd like, my team always wants to know, like, how do you, read these books or whatever. And I'm like, my superpower is I don't really care about music. So sorry. Not that I won't listen to it. I'll listen to it if it's on, but like, I'm not going out of my way to listen to music. I'm either on the phone with a client, or I'm coaching, or I'm reading a book. And I've really trained myself to listen to audibles. I'll give you guys a couple hacks here on that. So remind me to give you the hacks. And if you don't in the chat, that's on you. So I'll give you the hacks on the information you put in your head. So the books you read, number one, the information you put in your head, that's one of the biggest things. The second one is the people you meet. Okay, you're on this call, you've met me. What does that mean for you? I hopefully will get to meet some of you. What does that mean for me? What does that mean for us going forward? No one succeeds alone. You cannot show me someone who's highly, highly successful that did it all on their own. And people that talk like that, just ego, right? Ego getting in the way. You cannot show me someone that's highly, highly successful that did it without anyone's help at all. Like, everyone needs someone. And so the people you meet will have the biggest impact on your life, because they'll help you have conversations and meet new people and connect you. Right. And so if that matters to you, like, who do you matter to? So if I was to meet Craig Rieger, the leader of our awesome coaching company, and he introduced me to someone else, what could that mean for my business? Who does he know that I need to know? Right? Who do I know that maybe he needs to know? How can we help each other? There's a saying, if you run with dogs, you are a dog. You've heard the saying, you're basically the median or the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I totally believe that. So, and this goes into the third thing, which I'm not going to tell you just yet, but like, the question that I follow up with, if you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, is that a good thing? What would have to change for it to be a good thing? List off those 5 people. I'm going to give you a second. I'm going to give you a LaCroix break. Write down the 5 people you spend the most time with. All right, so I know you're still writing some of those people's names down, but write them down, because I'm going to challenge you on some stuff here. And I think this is super, super powerful. So if you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, the question is that a good thing? And the follow-up question is, like, how would you change it if you could? But let's get some categories, okay? And this is where it gets really intricate. So you financially are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You relationally are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. When it comes to growth, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Productivity, accountability, action, happiness. Are you guys starting to see how this could be a pretty big impact on where you're going? Now ask that question. Is that a good thing? I'm the sum of the 5 people, an average of the sum of the 5 people relationally. Oh, well, this one's been divorced. This one's never been married. This one hates everyone. You're like, oh, damn. Like, are these people helping me? Here, I'll digress here real quick. We've got a client. I'm sure you guys have a client like this, or have had a client like this, but this is happening right now. This guy wants to buy a house really bad. We've asked all the questions, found the right house, and he chooses not to buy it. Why? Because his mom says it's not a good deal. Well, let's investigate the mom. Mom's 55, never owned her own home, wouldn't know a good deal if it slapped her in the face. That's who he's taking advice from. right? He's the sum of the 5 people he's spending the most time with. How are those people influencing you? Are they building you up? Or are they pulling you back? Another question here, and this is massive, guys. I can promise you, I'm going to tie all this together. I hope you guys are sticking with me here. Another massive thing, right? Like if you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, is that a good thing? Are these people moving you forward in life? Are they pushing you forward, or are they pulling you back? So you got all those names down. You got all 5 of those people's names down. Go right next to them. This one pushes me forward, or this one pulls me back. And it's not guys, it doesn't mean they don't like you or they're bad people if they're pulling you back. In fact, it's usually the opposite. They care about you so much, they want to protect you. And so they grab onto you and they say, stay here because I like you right here. I don't necessarily want you to go up there because I don't know if I'll like you up there. I don't know if I can keep up. All right, so number 1, the books you read. Number 2, the people you meet. So that brings us to the last one, number 3. You probably haven't heard this one very much because I think I made it up, but I don't know. It's the questions you ask. The top 3 things that'll have the biggest impact on your life in the next 5 years, the books you read, the people you meet, and the questions you ask. And if you want to go one step further, the questions you ask yourself. Have you taken the time to ask yourself, who do I spend time with? Is that a good thing? Are these people pulling me back? Are they pushing me forward? If my goals are financial and I don't have anyone in my life that's pushing me forward financially, is that going to get me to my goal faster or slower? All right, I'm loving this. I don't know. I don't know if you guys are liking it. I hope you are. Let's read some chat here. Okay, we got the book. Surround myself with people who build my fire. If you are the one that peas on my fire, I remove them. I like it. You got givers and takers. I mean, the world can probably be put into 2 categories. There's givers and takers. Here's another book. I'm just giving you another one. I can tell you the whole meaning of the book, but it's called Swim. So I gave you fish already, but now this book's called Swim. Let me pull it up real quick. Okay, it's by Walter Bond. It's a parable. It's a story, super simple, but it basically says there's 3 types of people. There's sharks, suckerfish, and parasites. And I can spoil a book a little bit because why not? Most of you won't read it anyways. So basically the shark, it talks about how do you want to be a shark? You're always looking up, you're always moving forward, you're flexible, blah, blah, blah. The suckerfish is symbiotic with the shark. It's kind of like a mentor and a mentee, right? And the suckerfish is helping the shark because it's eating deadly parasites and other bacteria, all the stuff that's on that shark that could be hurting the shark. And then, of course, you've got the parasite, and the parasite doesn't help anyone, right? It feeds on a host and it kills the host, and it doesn't give any crap about the host, right? So that book is just, it sums this up, right? Like, are those people in your life, are they sharks, meaning they're taking you somewhere? Because if you're the suckerfish to them, that means they're kind of your mentor, right? Like Craig might be the shark in my world, and I'm the suckerfish following him around, and he's protecting me. The shark's protecting the suckerfish because the suckerfish is protecting the shark. And then, of course, you go into the parasite. Like, if you got parasites in your world, they're adding no value. It doesn't mean they can't change, by the way. And the book's very clear about that. But if that's where they're at today, maybe they shouldn't be in your world, right? Move them on. All right. Books you read, people you meet, and the questions you ask, those are the top 3 things, in my opinion, that will change your world in the next 5 years. They'll have the biggest impact. And so here's my question. Since those are the top 3 things that will have the biggest impact on your world, is that a good thing? follow-up question. What would you like to do, assuming this is true? What would you like to do? What would you like to include in your life to make sure that you're on track in the next 5 years in these 3 categories? What are things you can do today to get on the right track? If you're talking about swim, the author is Walter Bond. And then the other book I gave you was Fish, and that's by Stephen C. London. And I know I'm throwing a lot of books out here, so yeah. And really the gist of these books, like you can choose to read them or not. You can Google a lot of these books and just get like the highlights. For me, I told you I'd give you the hack. You guys didn't ask for the hack, but I'm going to give you the hack anyways, because I'm just that nice of a guy. So my favorite hack on reading, okay? I was taught this by Ben Kinney at a class that he was teaching one time. And basically he says, hey, I buy the book. He's like, has anyone ever read a book? And everyone's like, duh, yeah, we've read a book. So he's like, has anyone ever read a book and you read like 10 pages and then all of a sudden you like don't know what you read and you got to go back 10 pages and start over? He's like, yeah, me too. And of course, that's been my biggest problem reading books. It's like really hard for me to sit still and read and stay focused on that book. So here's his hack. Audible. Okay. Get yourself an Audible account. Buy the book on Audible. Buy the book on the actual hard copy of the book. Listen to it on Audible while you're reading it, but turn the Audible on to 2 or 3 times speed. And it does all the teaching, okay? Because you have the kinesthetic, you're holding it. You got the visual, you're seeing it. And then you have the audible, you're hearing it. And it's almost impossible. Excuse me, I told you the LaCroix is coming in hot on the recording. It's almost impossible not to focus on the book because you're listening to it while you're reading it. It is a phenomenal way to read books. Now, I'll tell you, I've been doing that for a long time. I don't even know how long, 7, 8 years, something like that. I have now graduated to where I don't even need the books. I can listen to books and I actually take my notes. So I have this notes app. I'm going to stop sharing for like 2 seconds so you can just see my screen. Hang tight here. So I have my notes app right here. Here's a book I read a while ago, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You can just see I've got all my notes in here. I listen to the book and then I'm on my notes. There's Swim, the book I just told you about. I've got the Wisdom of Sundays. Here's that book. So one of my favorite things to do is exactly what I'm talking to you guys about here, which is really just pour into that real estate, right? I want to pour into that most expensive real estate on the planet, as far as I'm concerned, which is right between my ears. So books you read, people you meet, questions you ask. For me, I listen to everything at 2x minimum. And I also weed out a lot of books. So I just threw out to you like 10 books and people are like, I need the book. Vet the book, guys. Just because I told you to go, that I read this book doesn't mean it's good. Be very vigilant when it comes to books you allow in your world. Because we only have so much time. We can only read so many books. So start with the ones that make sure you get 3, 4 recommendations. Just because you heard it from me, go get a couple more recommendations before you choose to dive into that book. All right, bring this home. Conferences, invest in yourself. If you see RCC put an event on, pay for it. Phenomenal coaches at this organization, and they bring the heat. I love teaching. It's one of my favorite things to do. If I'm teaching a class, you better be there. Invest in yourself, guys. Greatest return on investment you could possibly get. Hire a coach. This is not challenging. Okay. In 2013, I think my gross income was like $350,000. In 2020, my gross income was $2.5 million. I hired a coach in 2013. Paid $1,000 a month. Now I pay $1,500 a month. I've upped my coaching game. And I've been paying that for 9 years, guys, and it is worth the investment. go hire a coach. If you're on the fence about hiring a coach, figure it out. Like, figure out a way to cut out expenses that are not providing you a return. Invest in yourself, which will be the greatest return you ever get. So many people are telling me, Chase, I want passive income. That's why I got into real estate. Okay, invest in yourself. Spend some money on your own wisdom. It's important. Okay. Get a coach to come into your world and pull things out that you would never be able to do on your own. All right. You have untapped potential, and coaching taps into the potential. That's what coaching does. Good coaches tap into your potential, and you'll find out quick. I mean, if you don't have a coach, you should call RCC today, get a coach, tell them you want a coach for 2 months, and you're going to figure it out. That's $2,000 investing in yourself. Get it figured out. I'd probably go 3 months just to make sure it's moving in the right direction, because depending on you and where you're at, guys, you can get a return. You should get a return on coaching. Highly, highly recommend it. All right. Guys, I'm here for Q&A. We got 7 minutes. I am shocked we finished the content on time. I told you I only had like 3 slides. What did you guys take away before we go into anything else, any other Q&A, which you guys can type questions in the chat or in the Q&A box, but anything goes. Anything you want to ask me at all, I'm happy to. But I would really appreciate it. We'd asked for some testimonials earlier in this. If you are willing to submit a testimonial, I think Bella can put a link where you can click on it and go type some of the things you learned there. But I'd just like to know, for my own satisfaction, like instant gratification right now, what is it right now, Frank? And let me just read through here. I'm going to call some people out. Susan, Majid. Who else do we got in here? I think we got the Colda group. Like, what are some things you're taking away? Be specific. Like, what did you get right now? Like an actionable item you think you can put inside your business or into implementation right now. Let's write it in the chat real quick. So Frank says we got several great focus points. Sales standards. Awesome. I love that, Frank. I don't know if you run a team or you're on a team, but the sales standards piece is massive. You got to have standards in sales. And not just a productivity standard, but standards around like how you're communicating and all that. And Frank said, way to read. Guys, that's changed my world. I mean, I probably read easily 15 to 20 books a year, whereas I used to be like painfully read like 1 or 2. All right, Majid, my takeaway is you are who you spend the most amount of time with. The most important real estate is a state of mind. Awesome. I love that. Susan said, stop being silent and allowing poor behavior from your team. Yeah, you can't. Silence grants permission, guys. If you're going to stand idly and someone's going to be speaking about something and you don't believe in it, it's kind of like, I mean, I don't want to get political because it's not a political statement, but like, I mean, we can just go down the path here, right? If someone says something racist and you do nothing about it, like you're granting that permission. If someone is beating someone in public and you just walk by and be like, I'm glad I'm not that guy, and you do nothing about it, like you're allowing it to happen. I think we all can do a better job. All of us can do a better job around, improving the direction of the people in our world, which is why I want to pour so much into my own mind, because I know that in order for me, and we talked about the big whys, right? Like the birthing centers or the, saving puppies or digging wells in Africa or whatever. My big why is maximizing the potential in everyone in my world. Like that drives me forward. Now, people who know me and know that about me, we have a lot better relationship. people who don't know that about me are like, what's this guy's deal? Why is he getting so invasive? And so I got to work on my delivery from time to time because I really care. I mean, if you're in my world, I care about getting you where you need to go. But what's more important than that? Okay. And this is for all of you listening to this. What's more important than that is being the best possible version of myself. It's on top. Okay. If maximizing my potential, let me I'm gonna pop off this for 2 seconds. Hold up. Gotta go to the whiteboard. Everyone who knows me knows I love the whiteboard. So if maximizing my potential's here, so I'm gonna put max. If that's here, above that, okay, is best version of myself. Best version. Because I know that if I'm the best version of myself, I can do this at a higher level. Right? But if I'm not being the best version of myself, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this at the highest level possible. So you really want to make sure that you understand pouring into yourself and being the best possible version of yourself is what's most important. Which is why, I mean, obviously we're a coaching company, so we're biased and you should hire a coach, blah, blah, blah. But it's true. You should hire a coach. Because if you're the best version of yourself, you have better relationships with your spouse or your significant other. You become a better investor. You become a better real estate professional, a better business owner, right? You can achieve the things you want to achieve at the highest level possible in your world if you are reaching your potential, right? So I'm super, super passionate about this, guys. There's nothing more important to me than helping people reach, heights they couldn't reach without being pushed. And that's why I coach. So there's my piece there. What are my thoughts on reading on NLP? I don't know a ton of NLP. I've been taught a ton of NLP without actually knowing it's NLP. So I don't know what's NLP and what's not. There are some classes going around and I've heard amazing things about it. So I totally think it's worth exploring, Majid, but I personally haven't. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, so I apologize. So Josh says your standards are what you're willing to tolerate. You can always tell how much leadership experience a leader has based on their standards. That's the truth. What are some good questions to ask when seeking out a new coach? I've had some bad ones and wasted money in the past. So frustrating. They are takers, not givers. Well, there's a good giveaway. So let me talk about that for a second, Susan, because it's like hiring. I know you have a team. I think you mentioned you have a team. So when you make a bad hire, you find out what you don't want in the next hire. So it's the same thing with coaching. Like you should write down the top 3 things you liked about the coach. There's got to be something, even if it's like, hey, he showed up. Like, I don't care what it is. Write down the top 3 things you liked. Then write down the top 3 things you want to be different in your next coach. Okay. What is that? What do you want to be different? What do you expect? And then for me, Susan, when I do a coaching intake call with a new potential client, I mean, I'm trying to get them not to coach with me because it's not going to be easy. And I don't want them to think it's going to be easy. And if they're not willing to go through a pretty difficult phone call up front, then they definitely won't last when it comes to, every single week on a coaching call with me. So questions I would ask them, I might ask them what their expertise or niche is. And you'd want to find out your own niche too. Like if you are, you want to be an expired listing expert, well, you should probably see if your coach has any experience in that, or Majid referenced NLP. So if you want to be working with someone that knows NLP, like maybe you should ask that question. So what's the niche? What do you want to work on? What do you want to see happen in coaching? And they have a great intake call too as part of RCC. So reach out to Bella. That'd be the first thing I'd say. Reach out to Bella. Mention those things we talked about. All right, Josh's standards have consequences. Not a fancy laminated sign we never look at. Oof. Sounds like if that hurts, which it does, it's probably something we can change. All right, guys, we're over on time. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with all of you. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for sticking around to the end. I hope you learned something. If you did and you want to do me a big favor, go to that link. Maybe Bella can post it one more time. Write a testimonial. Like, what'd you take away from this? What'd you take away from RCC's vision to reality? What'd you take away from me as a coach? All those things would be really, really important. So thanks, guys. Have an amazing week. Don't forget, tomorrow's last day. Josh Cooley is pulling all this together for you, and he's a phenomenal coach. He happens to be our head coach at RCC. You won't want to miss it. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.